Okay, our next brand new extract that we get to get started on is our Cranberry Vanilla Orange Extract. It's on page 112 of The Art of Extract Making. And this one is going to incorporate fresh fruit, but there's a twist in this one. It's fresh fruit, but it's a little different than the fresh fruit ones that we've done in the past. And we'll talk about why in a moment.
Okay.
How's that?
Sure.
Okay. I'll turn it over to you.
Okay, this orange cranberry vanilla extract is so fun and unique, and it is also delicious in some of the similar recipes that that Autumn Breeze is. Again, in your tea with just a little bit of a splash, it's just a treat. So don't forget your teas. I know it's cold. I'm starting to drink more tea right now. And so I've got this basket here. Those are all my finished extracts, and I've got them in little bottles, so they're easy to get to. My favorites are on top of my little espresso machine, so I can just not have to think about it in the morning and just put a little bit in there. Or with tea, the same thing. I just put it right next to my kettle. So yeah, you can use extracts.
And that's what's so fun. It's like you have a flavor artillery, right? And they're in all the different cabinets, so you're not limited to just vanilla.
No, I've got them next to the stove. I've got them
There's
next to the
so many
coffee.
things, and you can grab them, you can improvise on recipes. So much fun. Go ahead.
Okay, so let's get going on this. Our first ingredient, of course, is the vanilla. These are our Cook Island vanilla beans, and these are nice, fruity. As it's fruity like the Ecuadorian, but a little bit more, don't you think, cherry?
Yeah, I'm gonna geek out. Can I geek out?
Sure.
Do I have your permission to geek out for a minute?
Oh, for 26 years.
Okay. So the Cook Island beans are fun, one, because it's a V planifolia. And most of the time when you're getting down into the South Pacific and those regions, everybody's growing the Tahitensis. And so it's harder to find V planifolia beans coming out of like the South Pacific. Tonga has them, but it's rare. Cook Island's one of those. So one, you get like the traditional creaminess of like planifolia that you would think of from like Mexico or Madagascar. But because it's grown in the islands and the soils there, you get like a tropical fruit, like fruitiness. And also on these, it's like an anise. There's like the soft hint of like anise.
Yeah,
and
a little bit of a licorice.
Yes, a kind of a licorice anise undertone, a little bit of cherry. So there's some fruit, and it blends really well with what we're going to be doing here with the oranges. We actually are, they're not available right now. I feel horrible even saying it, right? Because they're stocked out. But we're always working with our suppliers to get more. It's a small little farm that we source these things from. So we'll get them again and we'll let you know. But right now they're stocked out. But they are a beautiful, fun vanilla bean from the South Pacific that is just one that you've got to try. And it marries well with the ingredients of this extract.
You can see the shine from the oil in here. They're nice and thick. You cut into these and there's so many seeds in here. They're really pliable. So if you want to save this really big one and all that caviar in there, you can just tie that guy up. I'm going to do a couple of them just so I can save that caviar for later. And then the rest of them I'm going to cut so I can get all those seeds.
So it's just 6 beans that make up this ounce.
Yes.
They're a little shorter, but they're really plump.
7 actually.
Is it the 7?
Yeah.
I missed one there. Yeah.
Now you can slice them down the middle. Sometimes I do it, and sometimes I just cut them because you can get the caviar in your extract by just cutting them as well. Yeah. It's a personal preference.
There you go.
Okay, so the vanilla beans always go on the bottom because I want to make sure that those are submerged and they're not floating at the top. And so it just makes it easier for me to make sure that they are always submerged. So they go on the bottom. The next ingredient is our oranges. Now I cut these very thin just to fit into my jar. There's 3 medium oranges and they fit about in my hand. Not large, not small, just kind of in the middle. And it fills this jar. This is a quart jar, and I'm going to have to push some things down here. I could probably use a bigger jar, and you're welcome to, but I have about a bajillion of these. So, I find a way to use what I have.
Yeah. And so while she's doing that, let's talk just a little bit about fresh fruits. We've talked about this in the other. When you're adding fresh fruits, you can Google online, what the moisture content is of any kind of fresh fruit. So in the case of an orange, it's almost 90% moisture. So what that means is that 90% moisture is water. And so we're adding water to our extract in an effort to use the water to dilute a higher proof alcohol. So the sweet spot for extract making, when you're talking about alcohol content, the sweet spot is always between 35% and 50% alcohol, which is 70 to 100 proof. So our target is to always make sure that whatever alcohol content we had at the beginning, after we add our ingredients, if they're fresh, we want the alcohol content to end to be at somewhere between 35 and 50%. That's the sweet spot. Anything above 50%, we've experienced that we damage the beans. They don't extract at the same rate. And you can have problems. And so in anything below 35%, they don't extract. You've got to be a minimum of 35%. And so our whole goal here is to get the moisture out of the fruit, and then we're going to use a higher proof spirit to then dilute it to get it down to that window of 35 to 50%. Historically, when we've done fresh fruit, we always start with a 195 proof Everclear. This time we're doing it different. We'll tell you why. I'm going to leave it right there and then we'll come back to it. Go ahead. You were going to start muddling with your muddle.
Oh, I was just going to show. A lot of people are like, how do you get that to fit in the jar? I am going to squeeze some of this down. It's just going to squeeze some of that juice out. And like Paul was saying, the juice is going to dilute that high alcohol, that Everclear. And so oftentimes when people extract with overproof alcohol, they'll dilute it with water. Well, the great thing when you use the fresh fruit is you're diluting it with orange juice, which just adds a little bit of sugar, a little bit of that wonderful orange flavor. And so it's just a unique way to, dilute the alcohol in these extracts and then add a unique flavor.
That's exactly it. So by muddling there, she's pushed all of the orange juice essentially to the bottom. So when we put the spirit in, it will immediately dilute it and we'll get our alcohol content down. And when we get to the Everclear, we'll talk about it.
Yeah, and I'm not done. I've got 2 ounces of cranberries that need to go in here. This smells so Christmassy, you guys.
Now, by the way,
I can smell these cloves with the cranberry and the orange, and oh my gosh, it's like Christmas morning in here.
Okay, can I get geeky again?
You're welcome.
Do I have your permission to get geeky? One of the things that I've seen online from our super creative group members in our Facebook group, someone posted a while ago, and she did the oranges and then the cranberries, then the oranges and then the cranberry. So she layered it all the way through. So it was like orange, cranberry, orange, cranberry.
Like trifle.
Yes, and then gave it again as a gift.
Beautiful.
And it looked absolutely beautiful. And so again, other gift ideas that you can do. Everyone, you don't have to have a finished extract to give it out. You can give a newly made extract. You can give all the ingredients plus the alcohol like we talked about previously, and then just some instructions. And it's kind of a thing that they can create over the year and then use it, a year from now. And then you tell everyone when they do use it a year from now, they have to invite you back to taste test whatever it is that they made with it, right?
Or they have to bring you a treat.
Or they have to bring you a treat. Exactly. Anyway, sorry, little diversion
you're
there.
good. You're good.
Fun thing from the group.
See that in our book. A lot of the images are of the ingredients before the alcohol is added, because once you add that, it all gets muddled together and you can't see each layer of ingredient and how beautiful and the colors and so it is kind of a fun little gift to do it before.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is just 1 teaspoon of cloves, and I'm telling you, it smells like Christmas in here.
Christmas in a bottle.
We have a fruit salad that we like to eat every Christmas in the morning with cinnamon rolls, and this smells just like it.
Smells just like it. Do we get to geek out about Everclear now?
Yes.
May I speak about Everclear?
You may.
Okay, so we've made, now I think the recipe here, correct me if I'm wrong, this called for the high proof rum. We talked about this last time. We went and looked again. In fact, the laws have changed now in Utah. Again, they're not selling high proof stuff anymore.
No,
not even Everclear.
Yes, I went down to the liquor store today. I knew that they didn't have the rum, but I was going to get some more Everclear. And here in Utah, the highest they're going to go, they changed the law, is 151.
Yeah.
And so we're headed down to southern Utah in a little bit. We're gonna cross the border into Nevada and stock up.
Seriously, like a smuggler sometimes.
And my sister comes to visit and she'll bring stuff.
Yes.
She's my bootlegger.
Yes. So that's one of the challenges that we have now. Fortunately, with this extract, it works. So historically, when we've done fresh fruit extract, we start with like a 190 proof or a 195 proof, right? Which is like 98% alcohol. We add the 1-to-1. We add like 4 ounces of fresh fruit to the 8 ounces or 8 ounces of fresh fruit to 8 ounces of spirit. And what that effectively does is it cuts the alcohol content in half. So you go from at 98% to 44, roughly 44%.
Which is in that sweet spot.
Which is in the sweet spot.
35 to 50%.
Then the next time we do a change out, we use half the amount of fresh fruit is what we've done in the past. And so then that takes us down to like 37% and we're right in the window and we're good. Now, in the case of this one, so say you're like us and you're in a state where you can only get like 151. We recommend this in the book, and then just by coincidence, the laws have changed here. And so it proved really helpful today. Our recommendation when we do the change out of the oranges in the book on this one is not to add fresh oranges the second time. So in a month, when we come and we remove the fresh oranges, the next time we're just going to add orange peels. So we're not going to add fresh fruit and moisture from fresh fruit. So what that means is we'll start with a 151 Everclear, or if you had like a 160 high proof rum, like what the book calls for that we used to be able to get and we can't get now, you're effectively cutting that in half, which is still okay. You're right in the window of where you want to be, but you can't do another round of fresh fruit if you're starting with a 151. You have to only use dry ingredients, which is exactly what we call for in the book, specifically for this reason. We just wanted to teach that lesson. And again, our whole goal is to just teach you the concept so you guys can go out and make hundreds of successful different extracts. Using dry fruit, you don't have to worry about moisture content. Using wet fruit, you have to worry about moisture content. You're adding moisture to the alcohol, you're diluting it. If you ever get below 35%, it's not going to extract well, but you got to make sure if you're using high proof that you dilute it enough to get it down below 50%. So in this case, we're going to use our 151 proof, right? Which is roughly 78, what is that? 70, I didn't do the math beforehand. Now I have to do it on my feet and I'm not doing it well. But we're cutting it, essentially cutting the proof in half, which is right in the window. And then the next time we're going to use dry fruit when we put it in, right?
Okay, so I'm just going to pour this in. When it's going to take a minute to kind of go down because it's full.
In fact, if you show the side, you can see all the air bubbles because there's lots of pressed air down there.
Yeah, tons of air bubbles coming up when I pour it in. Now, when we go down to Nevada, we're going to get the Stroh rum.
Yes.
And that is, what was that, 190?
No, I think it's a 160 proof.
No, not Stroh.
Oh, was the Stroh the 190?
The plantation.
The plantation was 160.
Yes.
And the Stroh was the 190.
Yes. So
yes.
Go down and I'm going to be able to get my original recipe with the rum.
And then we'll be able to
stock up because now that we know, it's not going to just be so easy to get anymore. We're just gonna stock up, and then that way we have what we need.
Exactly. So that's sort of the challenge. That's what we're always working with, right? So this is another example of we don't have the rum available, so you have to call an audible. We know that since we're using fresh fruit, we've got to grab like a higher proof spirit so that we can dilute it and still be okay. We've done that. We're going to do Everclear instead of the other. Everclear is a lot like vodka. It's tasteless. It's just a really high concentration of alcohol. So you got to make sure that you dilute it in this particular extract, which we've done. We'll put the lid on it. We'll let all that sweetness get absorbed out of the beans, out of the oranges. We'll take the oranges out in a month and add orange peels when we do the change out to bring more of that orange flavor forward. And this is going to be a super fun one to, it's always one of my favorites actually to taste test.
Well, also one of the reasons I do like to use this quart size jar is that there isn't a lot of air on top or space. And so there isn't really any room for the fruit to float up and not be under the alcohol.
Right.
So if you get a jar that's close to, and we can't always, it's hard to get the perfect jar where there's no air or space on
yeah.
the top. But when you get it, these quart jars, like it's all the way to the top.
Yeah.
I mean, it is like the perfect size.
And fruit varies. Sometimes you have bigger ones and littler ones, and the peel is thicker, and sometimes it's not thicker. You're dealing with organic material, and it always changes a little bit.
That's true.
So we just kind of dance with it, and we make it work. And this is a beautiful extract.
It's gorgeous.
I'm curious if any of you, and maybe you've mentioned it in the comments, I know that several of you, this has been a favorite since our book was published. And so anyone that made this one right away last year, you'll be taste testing it right now. We're on, I think, our 4th round of this, and it's one of our favorites for the holidays, for sure.
And that's why we're making it now, because I want to make sure that you guys have this ready for next year for the holidays. It's a little early for orange season. We're not really seeing great oranges yet. But I did find a few, and we want to make sure we get it out now, because you're going to want it for next Thanksgiving and Christmas. It's one of those recipes that are just perfect for the holidays. I would show you what this looks like, but I forgot to get the lid.
Oh, lid. I was just looking for it to try to help.
If you want to just kind of come over to the camera just for a sec, you can maybe see from the top.
It's kind of hard to tell.
Yeah.
Where is that lid?
I don't.
We must have left it somewhere. It's around somewhere.
It's here. I think it's in the pantry.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah.
We'll just set it right there.
Yeah. I'll post it later.
I'm laughing. Nancy says, look around the kitchen. Paul likes hiding new bottles, so we barely see them. Nancy knows all my tricks.
He does.
Shannon, Moon Babe used the freeze-dried tart cherries because she couldn't find any dried cranberries without added sugar. It's gorgeous. Someone asked, have you added sugar to the fruit extracts? Sometimes have we ever used like a sweetened one where there's maybe some added sugar?
I have,
yeah,
but for the most part, I don't add. It's kind of more of an infusion, which is a whole nother wonderful thing that you could add.
Like liqueurs, and you get into other things. Yes.
Yeah. But for the most part, and it is hard to find the cranberries without sugar, and oftentimes it's hard for the oranges. They like to add, and I think apples even, I notice that they're adding sugar. So that is something. It's not bad. You could try it.
Well, we've done it, and it's okay. In fact, I mean, if those of you that were with us a couple of workshops ago when we did the caramel apple, and we're putting the caramel, I mean, we're adding sugar essentially to the extract with the caramel.
Yes.
It's where we use like an infusion and an extract all in one. And that's added sugar. And so you can, and they turn out great. Typically though, with the exception of some of those like specialty ones, we try to go sugar-free.
It lasts longer without the sugar.
Yeah.
That's the reason. If you have the sugar in, it lasts for about a year. And then it doesn't last as long as extract.
There you go. So we try not to use sugar unless we're doing like a specialty fun thing, something like that, maybe calls for it.